Hello my dear friends, my name is Daniel. I am 19 years old and I live in a small town in Texas called El Paso. My house is near the edge of town close to the desert, and every evening the sun makes everything orange and peaceful. I live with my mom and my little brother. We are not rich, but we are close. We love each other and we help each other with everything. Since childhood I always feared speaking English. My school was mostly Spanish speaking and I never really tried. I thought English was only for smart people and I never believed I was smart. Every time someone spoke English around me I looked down and pretended I didn't hear. I remember one time in 5th grade my teacher asked me to read a sentence from the board. I stood up, my hands were shaking, my voice disappeared, and the entire class laughed. That day I promised myself I would never speak English again. I grew up hiding from English. I passed exams with help from friends and sometimes just by memorizing answers, but deep I always felt like a failure, like something was missing from my life. One night I had a dream. I was in New York City, standing in front of a big crowd. People were asking me questions in English, and I was answering confidently without. Woke up sweating and excited. Maybe it was just a dream, but it stayed in my heart. The next day I went to the park near my house and sat on a bench with my notebook. I was writing my thoughts in Spanish when an old man came and sat next to me. He smiled and said hello. I froze. I didn't know what to say. I just smiled back. He said, "You look like someone with a lot on your mind." I nodded and said, "See." A little smile came on his face and he asked, "Do you speak English?" I shook my head slowly, but then he said, "That's okay, you can learn. Anyone can learn." And he handed me a small card with his name and number. His name was Mr. Carter. He was an old, retired teacher who taught English to immigrants and people like me. Every weekend he taught free lessons at the library downtown, and for the first time in years I thought maybe I could try again. I went home and stared at that card for 2 hours. I was scared. What if I failed again? What if people laughed? But something in my heart told me to go. I woke up early on Saturday morning, wore my cleanest shirt, and went to the library. There were about 10 people there. Some were older, some younger, and they all looked nervous just like me. Mr. Carter welcomed everyone and began the class by saying, "Don't be afraid to make mistakes, are how we grow." He started with simple greetings. "Hello, how are you? What's your name?" I sat there, heart pounding. When it was my turn I stood up, and for the first time in my life I said, "My name is Daniel." The class clapped. Mr. Carter smiled and said, "See, you can speak English." I sat down and felt like a mountain had moved from my chest. My heart was, and my eyes were wet. I had spoken my first sentence in English and nobody laughed. Instead they clapped, they supported, and I was not alone. Every Saturday I attended the class. One started practicing every night with YouTube videos. I watched kids' cartoons and repeated every sentence. I wrote new words on sticky notes and placed them on my walls. My room looked like a dictionary exploded. Some days I felt like giving up. I couldn't remember words, or my accent was too strong. But Mr. Carter always said it's okay to speak broken English. Broken English is still communication. Don't stop. My friends at school noticed I was trying. Some laughed, some supported, but I didn't care anymore. I was focused. I wanted to speak. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and nothing could stop me now. After 3 months I went to a grocery store and asked the cashier, "Can I have a bag, please?" She looked at me and said, "Of course, honey." I smiled all day, not because of the bag, but because I asked in English and she understood. 6 months later I volunteered at a summer camp as an assistant teacher. They needed someone who could speak both Spanish and some English. I was nervous, but I said yes. On the first day I helped little kids with coloring and told them stories in broken English. One kid named Tommy said, "You talk funny." I laughed and said, "That's because I'm still learning." And he said, "Me too," and gave me a high five. That moment made me realize we all learn at our own pace, and we are never too late. One day Mr. Carter invited me to speak at the library in front of a new group of students. I was shaking again, just like years ago, but I stood up and said, "My name is Daniel, and this is how I spoke my first sentence in English." The room clapped again, this time louder. I shared my story with them, told them how I was scared, how I hid for years, but one dream, one stranger, and one sentence changed everything. I told them they could do it too. All they needed was courage. Today I work part-time in a customer support job. I talk to people from different cities and help them with their orders. Every call makes me better. I still make mistakes, but I don't hide. I learn and move forward. I also help Mr. Carter with his classes now. I help people just like me who were once afraid. I see fear in their eyes and I tell them, "You will speak English one day and you will remember this moment forever." When I walk through my neighborhood and hear kids practicing English, I smile. I remember little Daniel, who once stood in class too scared to read a sentence, and now I am telling my story to the world. If you are listening to me now and you are afraid to speak English, just remember this: you are not alone. We all start somewhere. And maybe today is the day you speak your first sentence, just like I did. One day I met a guy named Jordan. He had just moved from Chicago and was fluent in English, but was trying to learn Spanish. We started talking slowly, mixing our languages, helping each other correct our mistakes. It felt like we were both standing on the same bridge, but facing different directions. Jordan invited me to join an online group where people from all over the world practiced English with each other. The group had students from India, Brazil, Philippines, and many other places. At first I was too shy to unmute my mic, but then I remembered my first sentence. The first time I spoke in that group, one said, "Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I am learning to speak better English." They all clapped and welcomed me. It felt like a new World opened in front of me, full of people, learning and helping each other. But with every step forward I had new fears. What if I say something wrong? What if I don't understand their accents? Jordan always said, "Bro, everyone makes mistakes and nobody remembers them tomorrow." That line stayed in my heart forever. Jordan told me about a small online job where they needed someone to help with emails in English. I said I couldn't do it, but he pushed me to try. I filled out the form and they called me for an online interview. It was my first ever in English. I practiced all night, repeating answers like I am a fast learner and I love helping people. In the morning I put on a clean shirt and opened my laptop, heart racing. The interviewer smiled and asked me, "Tell me about yourself." I paused for a second, took a deep breath and said, "My name is Daniel. I am from El Paso, and I love learning new things. I want to work here because I want to grow and support my family." The moment I finished, she said, "That was a good answer. Thank you." They hired me for a small project. It wasn't a big job, but it was my first step into an English-speaking world. I worked every day with care, checking grammar, using online tools, asking Jordan for help, and started writing faster, better, and with more confidence. My mother always supported me, but she didn't really know how far I had come. One evening she heard me speaking on a video call with a customer. She was sitting in the kitchen pretending to cut vegetables, but I could feel her listening. After I ended the call, she walked in and said in Spanish, "Mio, you are speaking English so well. I didn't understand half of it, but you looked so confident." I smiled and hugged her tight because that moment meant everything to me. She told our neighbors, our family in Mexico, and even our old school teacher. Everyone was proud of me, and that day I realized learning English wasn't just for me, it was for my family, my future, and my dreams. I started helping other kids in my neighborhood who were too shy to speak English. I started a small WhatsApp group. Every evening I shared a voice note saying one English sentence and explained what it meant in Spanish. Slowly they started replying back. Now I want to say something to every person out there who feels they are not smart enough or not confident enough to learn English. Please listen to me, because I was that person, too afraid, too shy, too full of doubt. You don't need perfect grammar or perfect accent. What you need is courage, one sentence at a time, one mistake at a time. And you will grow, you will get stronger, and one day you will look back and say, "I did it." Speak even when your voice shakes. Learn even when you feel tired. Believe even when your heart is full of fear, because English is not just a language, it is a door, and that door is waiting for you to open it. This is my journey, and if it touched your heart, then maybe you are ready to start your own journey today. Maybe now is your time. Maybe now is the moment you speak your first sentence, just like I did many months ago. She looked annoyed and said, "Never mind," and hung up. I felt crushed. All my confidence broke in 1 second. I sat at my desk staring at the screen feeling like I failed, like the fifth grade memory. That night I almost decided to quit, but then I remembered Mr. Carter's words, you learn most when you mess up and try again. So I watched the call again, found out what she asked and wrote it down. I learned that sentence by heart and promised myself I will never fear again. The next day I faced a similar question from another customer, and this time I answered it clearly and confidently, and she replied, "That's great, thank you so much, and that one thank you repaired my broken heart." Mr. Carter once gave me a small book with simple English stories. I didn't like reading much, but he said try one page a day, just one. I opened the book one evening and read, slowly, my finger moving under each word. At first I only understood a few words, but the pictures helped, and the second page made me smile. It was about a boy who felt invisible until he learned to speak English. It felt like my own story. Every night I read one page and underlined the words I didn't know. I searched their meaning on my phone, and slowly my vocabulary grew. Reading became my secret habit, my comfort place. After finishing the book I told Mr. Carter, and he said, "Now write your own story." I laughed, but inside I started thinking maybe one day my story will be in a book for someone like me. My little brother is 12 and he always watches me when I study. One day he came and asked, "Can you teach me English too?" I smiled and said of course, and we made a schedule of 15 minutes every night. We started with simple words, apple, ball, chair, and he repeated after me. We made games with flashcards. We stuck English labels on everything in our room, and slowly he began to speak. One evening he came running to me and said, "Daniel, I spoke to my teacher in English today, and she said good job." I hugged him tight and said, "I am so proud of you." And in that moment I realized teaching makes learning stronger. Helping my brother reminded me of my own beginning, and it gave me a new reason to keep going, not just for me but for everyone who needs a little push, a little hope. One afternoon I got a voice message on WhatsApp. It was from a girl in the group I had started. She said, "Hello Daniel, I just wanted to say your daily sentences helped me speak in my first job interview. Thank you so much." I listened to her message 3 times. Her voice was shaking but honest, and I felt proud, not because I was a teacher but because someone believed in themselves. Just because I believed in myself first. I replied back and said, "I'm so happy for keep going, never stop, your journey is just beginning." That day I realized how one sentence from you can change someone's life forever. And then I sat in silence thinking, maybe this is my purpose, maybe my fear, my pain, and my struggle were just steps to guide someone else out of their darkness. Mr. Carter told me that the library was organizing a small event and they wanted me to speak. I was shocked. In English, me, the same boy who once cried in front of a class. He said, "Just share your story, you don't need to sound perfect, just speak from your heart." I practiced for days in front of the mirror, and every time I felt nervous I reminded myself, How far I had come on the day of the event. I stood on the small stage. My hands were cold, but my heart was strong. I looked at the crowd and said, "Hello, my name is Daniel, and I want to tell you something that changed my life." I shared everything: my fear, my first sentence, my mistakes and my victories, and when I finished the room clapped and some even stood up, and that applause became the sound of my victory over fear. I was walking in the grocery store when a young boy came up to me and said, "Are you Daniel from the WhatsApp group?" I was surprised and smiled and said, "Yes, why?" He said, "My older sister listens to your messages every day. She made me listen to." I liked the story about the first sentence, and I want to learn English too. Will you help me? I sat with him on the bench outside and asked him his name. He said Joshua, and he told me he gets nervous in school because of his accent. I said, "Joshua, your voice matters more than your accent. Always remember that." That small meeting reminded me that you never know who is listening, who is watching, who needs you to keep going even when you want to stop. If I could go back and meet my younger self, the boy who stood frozen in front of the class, one would kneel down and say, "It's okay, it's not your fault, you are not dumb, you are scared, and that's okay." I would hug him and say, "One day you will speak and the world will listen. One day your voice will not shake. One day you will help others speak and their eyes will light up because of you." We would tell him that the pain will pass, the fear will turn into power, and you will become the person you always wish to be: someone brave, someone kind, someone who never gives up. And I would smile and walk away knowing that the boy will grow into someone who shares his voice not just in English but in love and light. Even after all this growth, there was a time I felt like giving up again. I was tired of trying. I felt like nobody really cared. I thought maybe I was not doing enough. One night I sat outside and stared at the stars, wondering why I was doing all this. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from a boy in India. He said, "Brother, your story gave me hope." I was about to quit English, but I won't now. I stared at the message for a long time. Then tears came down my eyes, not of sadness, but of strength, because in that message I found my answer again, my why, my reason. Every time you feel like giving up, look for your reason, your why. It's always there, hidden in the hearts you touch, in the lives you help without even knowing. I used to think English was my weakness, something I would never be good at, but now it is my power. I use it every day, not just for work but to inspire, to teach, to connect. I don't speak perfectly, but I speak confident. That makes all the difference. My voice may not be loud, but it's real and it's growing every day. Now I watch movies in English, write short stories, and even dream in English. Sometimes I laugh at myself, remembering the boy who was scared of a single word. Today I am not afraid of English, because English is no longer a wall, it is a simple. Through that window I see the world, and the world sees me. If you are still listening to me, then I want to say this is not the end, this is just the beginning of your story. Maybe today you are afraid, maybe today you feel small, but trust me, the first sentence you speak will lead to the second, and then before you know it, you will speak your heart out to the world just like I did. You have a story to, a reason to, and someone out there is waiting to hear it. Don't wait for perfect English, wait for the courage to begin, because courage is the first step. Always. So stand up, breathe in, and say your first sentence. The world is listening and your voice is worth hearing. So this is my journey, the story of a boy who once believed he could never speak, who once cried in silence and hid from every English word, who once felt invisible in classrooms and afraid of even greetings. But look at me now, I speak not because I am perfect, but because I never gave up. I speak because I dared to try again and again. I speak because one sentence opened a door to a new life, and now I will never close it again. And if you are that boy or girl sitting in fear, feeling small and unsure of your voice, then this story is for you. This voice is for you, because your time is coming and your moment is near. You will make mistakes, you will fall, and you will feel stuck. But if you keep standing up again, your day will come, the day when you will say your first sentence and the world will pause to listen. So go ahead, close your eyes, breathe deep, and when you open them again, say something, anything in English, even a single word, because that word might just be your beginning, your power, your voice. And when that moment comes, I will be here, smiling somewhere, knowing that I was once like you, and now you are becoming someone strong, someone unstoppable, someone who speaks not just English but speaks from the heart. Thank you for listening. This was my story, and maybe tomorrow the next story will be yours.